Lawyers of Reddit, what is the most ill-conceived conception of the law a client has had? I had a sovereign citizen walk into my office a few years ago and try to get me to argue his case in state court after the state seized land he owned for failure to pay taxes. I had a vague idea of what sovereign citizens believed before he came in. So at least I wasn't totally caught off guard. I didn't even try to explain the law, though. I just told him I couldn't help him. Then gave him the phone number of a lawyer I hate in town and sent the guy on his way. He bought all of a company's shares, which means he bought both the company's assets and its debts, and then filed a name change with the Secretary of State. He thought changing the corporation's name would legally absolve him of liability for the company's debts. Why do we have to pay Company X's payroll? This is now Company Y. I once represented a subprime lender that didn't understand how interest worked. Does that count? Best answer here. Oh god. What level of the business was she involved in? I'm friends with a no longer employable housing bubble millionaire who probably doesn't even know that compound interest is a thing. It was an entire department of a personal loan national chain company. They asked me to review an affidavit they had to file when they sued someone. The affidavit stated incorrectly how interest was calculated. I was telling a pro bono client what she needed to do to get her kids back. And one of the things was a clean drug test. I specifically said so. No weed up. No coke. No heroin. Nothing illegal. Okay. She agreed surprisingly quickly. So I moved on. 5 minutes later. She interrupts me to say, wait, is ice an illegal drug? Ice is slang for crystal meth. But the cop lied to me. So I ain't even worried. This is all gonna get dropped, no problem. So, I wanted to give you the opportunity to represent me pro bono. This is gonna be big for you. Oh sweet summer child. That lawyers will get you out of the huge mess that is purely of your own creation. When I tell them that they have little chance in trial because there was a camera that caught every little bit of their stupidity, as an example, I often get the well, what do I have a lawyer for, or well, you're not doing a very good job. Those people forgot that they also have to be incredibly wealthy for that to work. Rather than ill-conceived, it is more like ignorant. Oh, I couldn't do that? But I didn't know. Nobody ever told me that. I am innocent. I didn't know I shouldn't kill you. And I held you. Does it mean I am innocent? I think the general misconception is that the legal system runs on a schedule like you see on TV. A lot of clients think that if they come in on a Monday, their lawsuit will be filed on Tuesday. Then depositions will be done by Wednesday, and by Friday they will have prevailed in trial. Not a lawyer. But something I saw on Facebook that made me laugh. Someone I went to school with went to a children's clothes shop in the city center to buy clothes for her son. She took the tags off the clothes and threw away the receipt. When she got home, she realized that the clothes were too small for her son. She brought them back, demanding a refund. The manager refused, citing store policy that you have to have the tags and receipt in order to get a refund. She then took a picture of the manager to cashiers and the security guard of the shop and put them on Facebook along with their names. She wrote a very long, ranty Facebook post claiming that she was entitled to a refund under the Sale of Goods and Supply of Services Act. The act lists the various criteria needed in order to get a refund. Replacement or repair of the item you bought. One of them states that the item must be fit for purpose. It basically means that the item you buy should be able to perform the action it is meant to. So if you buy a hairdryer that doesn't dry hair, you would be entitled to a refund. Replacement or repair. You learn this in your very first year of secondary school. She was claiming that because the pair of jeans she bought for her son didn't fit him, they were not fit for purpose. Despite a metric ton of comments telling her that that's not how the law works, she couldn't see her misinterpretation and just kept repeating, but they don't fit my son. It was hilarious and sad at the same time. Not a lawyer, yet. But while doing a term at a law office, I once had a prospective client say these exact words, "I know how the law works. I watch Law and Order. Also, we're in Canada. So, no. Not sworn. But did all the testing schooling necessary if I wanted to work in this awful field. I worked in a family law office for a couple years. I live in a state in which spousal support, alimony, may be terminated in the event the recipient begins to live with a new romantic partner. One client hated his ex-wife's mother almost as much as his ex. His ex's mom lived with her. He complained often of their codependent relationship. He called our office one day in an unusually good mood. He had an idea. And he needed to come talk to us. They're in a romantic relationship. He practically shouted at me as I let him in the office. Huh. My wife and her mom. I don't have to pay any more alimony if she's in a romantic relationship. Are you telling me you think your ex and her mother have a romantic relationship? After repeating that, at best, we would be wasting his time and money to advance such a stupid argument to the court. He insisted we research its viability anyway. It was really more sad than anything. Once had a client being investigated for some light treason, under the impression that a husband and wife can't be tried for the same crime. Mum's so is a cop. Had to go to the courthouse to arrest a guy for stealing something from the courthouse. He was in court for stealing. Lawyer was all flustered and like WTF. Thief asked why he couldn't have a warning like all the other times he got caught. No. You're going to prison this time. Lawyer here, I do criminal law. But had to run a civil trial in my articles. Client was a tenant being sued by a landlord for a metric ton of cleaning costs. They insisted they had left the place spotless. During the trial it became clear the move-out inspection was done, and the cleaning cost estimate, a week before the clients actually moved out. And thus before the place was cleaned. They were arguing that it didn't matter when the inspection was done. The judge strongly and emphatically disagreed. Aside from sovereign citizens, the most common are: I didn't violate the no contact order. She called me. But you didn't hang up immediately. So you did violate it. I didn't assault her. I just shoved her to the ground. I stole the money. But I gave it back. After they called the police. I'm not a lawyer, but my stepson fully believed that if he had another child that his child support would be lowered on the first two. I tried to tell him that it didn't work that way, but he didn't believe me. He's not a smart man. Depending on the state, this could be true. His having a child affects his income for child support purposes, and the spirit of the law is not to disadvantage one set of children over the other. While I was working in the DA's office, I offered a defendant a plea deal on a low-level traffic offense. The deal would let him keep his license if he agreed to pay off his fines within 3 months. After he agreed and signed it, he asked, "So, do I get a bill later for your services?" I had to tear up the plea deal. Explain to him again that I work for the state and I do not represent his interests. And get him to sign another one. A client of my father once assumed that the judge would go easier on him. Because he had already confessed to his priest. And in the end, that's the judgment that matters most. This was for kidnapping and great BTW. Used to work at a corner store. Had a guy spin a tail and try to scam some cigarettes off us. When we of course denied him, he started yelling, "I'll just hop over the counter and take them. I don't care if I go to jail. God knows I'm innocent and that's all that matters." Ducking idiot lol. My landlord had his friend serve me. Not himself. So I can just ignore the eviction since I wasn't properly served. That's the opposite of correct. Having someone else do it is required for it to be proper service. Now you and your kids need to find a place to rent with an eviction on your record. Similar but not quite a lawyer. I work in legislation. One group of individuals have gotten together and decided via a vote that the law which covers all of Scotland doesn't apply to them and they can act as they want to. Ah. I see. Well, I vote that I never have to pay taxes again. Not a lawyer. But I intern at a courthouse. One of my jobs is to walk lay people through filing cases process. Usually because they are too poor to get a real lawyer. So helping people with no conception of the law is part of my job description. But outside of the true crazies, I think the biggest thing is I don't want to sue them. I think they think that suing someone is like a terrible horrible thing. And if they win it will ruin their opponent forever. And they don't want to do something that drastic. But can't I do something that requires a court order without bringing a case? No. But can't we just work this out between ourselves? Sure. But then nothing requires either of you to uphold the agreement. But do I really have to go through the court for this? Ignoring the fact that yes, you do. Why are you asking me? A courthouse worker? This? You're already here. That you can't convict a husband and wife of the same crime. Yeah? I don't think that that's true. Dad, I have the worst ducking attorney. If we can prove that one tiny part of this thing didn't happen then we can get the whole thing thrown out. Nope. And yet after I explain it, people still cling desperately. Tell the judge it was Frank who bought the beer that night. Doesn't matter. This is less about a client and just more about life. This one actually pissed me off the other day too. Friend asked for my personal opinion and not my legal opinion on something. Friend cannot comprehend that in a lot of ways they are inseparable. Friend then got mad at me for giving him advice that obviously he didn't want to hear in the first place. It's one thing to waste someone's time. Another to waste someone's free legal advice. And just complete BS to then get upset at someone for it. Ianal. But at boot camp, we had one bright-eyed young soul go stomping off to the leadership after we got our first pay stub. Because we didn't get paid overtime. LT was even nice to him at first. And pointed out that we were salaried and exempt. So overtime was not a thing. Dude tried to argue a few different things about minimum wage and IL state labor laws. And finished with a threat that he was going to contact the state labor board. LT laughed in his face and told him good luck. Then called his immediate supervision and had them revoke his phone privileges. Not because the threat would have worked, but just to prove a point.